The rain hammered the tin roof of the old craftsman house in Fremont like it had a personal grudge, each drop a reminder that Seattle never let you forget your solitude. Elias Hawthorne stood frozen in the doorway, staring at the social worker's clipboard, the words blurring under the fluorescent buzz of the agency office down the hall. Foster placement approved. Riley Kane, age 10, immediate intake. But it was the boy's eyes that hit him first when they wheeled in the duffel bag. Wide, storm gray, and already scanning for the exit, as if trust was just another word for trap. "You sure about this?" the social worker asked, her voice cutting through the downpour outside like a dull knife. Elias swallowed the lump in his throat. The one that had been there since his last breakup shattered him 2 years back, and nodded. "Yeah, I'm sure." But deep down, as Riley's small hand slipped into his, cold, clammy, and trembling, he wondered if he was signing up for salvation or just another way to drown. Elias had always pictured fostering as a quiet act of atonement, something to fill the echoing rooms of his inherited house on Aurora Avenue North, where the hum of traffic from the ship canal below served as a constant, indifferent lullaby. He'd grown up in the salt-crusted wilds of coastal Maine, where summers meant lobster traps and fog-shrouded cliffs, but Seattle had called him west 5 years ago with promises of reinvention. Tech consulting gigs that paid the bills and left his afternoons free for the kind of introspection that bordered on self-torture. At 32, with a jawline sharpened by too many solitary runs along the Burke-Gilman Trail and eyes that crinkled at the corners from forcing smiles at client meetings, Elias was the picture of put-together loneliness. His skin, pale as the underbelly of a winter cloud, bore the faint scars of childhood scrapes from rocky beaches back east, reminders that some wounds never quite fade. Riley Kane arrived on a Tuesday in late October, the kind of gray day that smeared the Olympics into oblivion across the Sound. The boy was wiry, all elbows and knees, with hair the color of wet sand and a backpack slung over one shoulder like it held his entire arsenal against the world. His file was a litany of heartbreaks. Parents lost to an overdose spiral in Tacoma, bounced between relatives until the system spat him out here. Elias knelt to his level in the living room, the scent of fresh paint from last week's touch-ups still lingering, and extended a hand. "Hey kid, I'm Elias. This is your spot now, for as long as you need it." Riley's gaze flicked up, assessing, then dropped to the floorboards. "Uncle Deck said you'd probably send me back by Christmas." His voice was a whisper, edged with the defiance of someone who'd learned early that hope was a luxury item. Elias's chest tightened. Uncle Deck? The file mentioned an uncle on the maternal side, but details were sparse, some drifter type, unreliable, more myth than man in the kid's fractured family tree. "Well, Uncle Deck doesn't know me yet, and I'm not big on holidays anyway." He forced a grin, steering them toward the kitchen where he'd stocked the fridge with root beer and those prepackaged pizzas Riley's intake notes flagged as a comfort food. The house, with its vaulted ceilings and exposed beams salvaged from a derelict mill, felt too vast suddenly, like it was swallowing them both. That first night, Elias lay awake in his upstairs bedroom, the patter of rain on the skylight syncing with the uneven rhythm of his pulse. He'd signed the papers on a whim, really, after a volunteer fair at the Pike Place Market where a booth hawked the foster stats like Black Friday deals. 1 in 10 kids aging out without a safety net. It wasn't heroism. It was the ache in his own gut, the one that widened every time he scrolled through Grindr profiles that promised heat but delivered ash. His last relationship, with a barista named Theo who'd ghosted him mid-pandemic, had left him questioning if he even deserved the mess of another heart. Fostering? That was supposed to be straightforward. Rules, check-ins, no strings beyond the temporary. By morning, Riley had barricaded himself in the guest room, now with the door cracked just enough to eavesdrop on Elias brewing coffee in the galley kitchen. The boy emerged at noon, hair sleep-tousled, clutching a dog-eared copy of Hatchet that Elias had spotted in a thrift bin on Capitol Hill. "You got any tools?" Riley asked, not looking up from the page about the plane crash. "Tools?" Elias paused mid-pour, steam curling like ghosts around his mug. "For building stuff. Uncle Deck says real houses need forts. This place looks like it could use one. Elias chuckled, the sound rusty in his throat. Out back, yeah. There's a shed with hammers, nails, the works. Your uncle sounds like a character. Riley's shoulders hunched. He's cool. Teaches me how to skip rocks and fix bikes. But he moves around a lot. Last time he was in Portland. Then whoosh. Gone again. The casual hurt in that whoosh lodged in Elias like a splinter. He nodded, filing it away, and led Riley to the yard where overgrown ferns nodded under the drizzle. They spent the afternoon hammering plywood scraps into a lopsided platform against the fence. Riley's laughter bubbling up rare and sharp when a nail bent sideways. Elias watched him, this small storm of a boy, and felt the first crack in his armored routine. A warmth that scared him as much as it soothed. 3 days in, the excuses started. A knock echoed through the house at dusk, just as Elias was portioning out mac and cheese. Riley's pick from the grocery run to QFC. He wiped his hands on a dish towel and opened the door to a man who looked like he'd stepped out of a Patagonia catalog crossed with a Kerouac fever dream. Tall, broad-shouldered, with sun-bleached hair tied back in a loose ponytail and a jaw shadowed by stubble that spoke of highways and half-forgotten motels. Declan Voss, deck to anyone who mattered, stood there dripping rainwater, a six-pack of microbrew dangling from one hand and a toolbox from the other, his hazel eyes locking onto Elias with the intensity of a lighthouse beam cutting fog. "You must be the foster dad," Declan said, his voice a low rumble laced with Pacific Northwest drawl, the kind that turned vowels soft around the edges. He extended a calloused hand, grip firm but not crushing. "Dec Voss, Riley's uncle. Heard he landed here. Figured I'd swing by. Make sure the kid's not turning your place into a demolition derby." Elias blinked, caught off guard by the easy charisma, the way Declan's flannel shirt clung to his chest from the wet, hinting at the lean muscle beneath. Up close, he was mid-30s, maybe, with laugh lines etched deep from squinting into too many sunsets and a tattoo peeking from his cuff. A compass rose, inked in faded blues. "Elias Hawthorne," he replied, shaking hands, aware suddenly of his own rumpled sweater and the faint scent of takeout lingering on his skin. "He's settling in. Come on in, dinner's almost ready." Riley bolted from the stairs like a shot, slamming into Declan's legs with a whoop that echoed off the walls. "Uncle Dec, you brought the IPA?" Elias said we could have root beer floats instead of soda. Declan ruffled the boy's hair, dropping to one knee with a grin that lit the dim foyer. "Root beer it is, squirt. But only if you show me that fort you built. Elias here looks like he could use a handyman." His eyes flicked up to Elias then, holding just a beat too long. Assessing, amused, something else flickering in the depths that made Elias's pulse stutter. Dinner unfolded in a haze of small talk and shared bites. Declan perched on the edge of the couch like he owned the place, regaling Riley with tales of hitchhiking up the Oregon coast and rebuilding a Harley from scrap in a Bend garage. Elias listened, fork midway to his mouth, drawn in despite himself. There was a rhythm to Declan, a restless energy tempered by genuine warmth, the way he leaned in when Riley spoke, eyes never straying far from the boy. But beneath it, Elias caught glimpses. A shadow crossing Declan's face when Riley asked about his next job, the quick deflection with a joke about chasing waves instead of paychecks. As the evening wound down, Declan insisted on fixing the loose hinge on the back door. "Can't have you two rattling in the wind like a bad western." He worked by the porch light, toolbox splayed open, while Elias supervised with mugs of decaf, the rain a soft curtain around them. "So, what's your story, Hawthorne?" Declan asked, screwdriver pausing mid-turn. "City boy taking in strays, noble gig." Elias shrugged, leaning against the railing, the wood damp under his palms. "Not noble, just available. Grew up by the ocean back east. Thought I'd try building something here that doesn't wash away." The words slipped out unbidden, rawer than he'd intended. Declan nodded, wiping his hands on his jeans, the motion pulling the fabric taut across his thighs in a way Elias tried very hard not to notice. "Fair enough. Riley's a good kid, tough shell, soft center. His folks, they tried, But the world's got teeth. I'm just the backup who shows up late. He clapped Elias on the shoulder, the touch lingering a fraction too long, warm through the chill. Thanks for this. I'll check in soon. Got a roofing job in Ballard next week, but I'll swing by. And just like that, he was gone. Taillights fading into the mist-shrouded streets, leaving Elias with a repaired door and a restlessness he couldn't name. Upstairs, Riley chattered about Uncle Deck's latest adventure, oblivious to the way Elias's mind replayed that shoulder clap, the brush of calluses against his skin. It was nothing, he told himself, rinsing dishes under the faucet's hiss. Just a uncle doing uncle things. But as he climbed into bed, the house settling around him like a held breath, Elias felt the first pull of something dangerous. A current beneath the surface, tugging him toward depths he'd sworn off long ago. The weeks blurred into a tentative routine, school drop-offs at the brick-and-mortar elementary in Wallingford, where Riley's teacher emailed updates about his quiet progress in math but lingering silences at recess. Evenings of board games pilfered from the Alki Beach arcade, where Elias learned to lose at Monopoly without flinching. Weekends hiking the Discovery Park trails, Riley's sneakers kicking up mud as he quizzed Elias on bird calls. The boy was thawing, inch by inch, a shared secret about hating broccoli, a midnight confession whispered through the wall about missing his mom's lullabies. Elias absorbed it all, his own barriers eroding, until one night he caught himself humming an old sea shanty from his Maine days, Riley giggling from the bunk below. Declan became the wild card in that deck, materializing every 10 days or so with excuses as flimsy as they were charming. Heard the shed roof's leaking. Let me patch it before the mold sets in. Or Riley mentioned that bike in the garage. Bet I can get it road ready for his birthday. Each visit stretched longer than the last, spilling into impromptu barbecues on the deck where Declan grilled salmon he'd caught off the San Juans, the smoke curling lazy against the evergreens. Elias found himself anticipating the knock, the flood of stories that painted Declan as a modern nomad, bartending in Austin one summer, guiding kayak tours in Alaska the next, always circling back to Riley like a planet to its moon. There was an ease to Declan that disarmed, a physicality born of labor and open skies. The way he'd stretch after a day hauling lumber, shirt riding up to reveal the taut plane of his abdomen, or how he'd toss Riley into the air with a laugh that rumbled deep. Elias caught himself staring once, during a pickup game of catch in the yard, Declan's throw arcing perfect and true, his eyes catching Elias's with a spark of knowing. "Your form's off, Hawthorne," Declan teased, jogging over to adjust Elias's grip on the glove, fingers brushing knuckles in a graze that sent heat licking up Elias's arm. "Loosen up. Life's not a boardroom pitch." That night, after Declan left with a wave and a promise of next time, "We'll hit the ferries," Elias poured a whiskey neat and sank into the Adirondack chair on the porch, the burn of liquor doing little to quell the churn in his gut. It had been years since anyone pierced his solitude so effortlessly, since Theo's casual touches had felt like lifelines rather than lies. Declan Voss was straight-edge adventure, the uncle archetype dialed to 11, off-limits, impossible. Yet as the city lights twinkled across the water, Elias wondered what it would feel like to lean into that gravity, to let himself fall. November crept in with a vengeance, frosting the maples along the canal in crimson and gold before stripping them bare, mirroring the slow unraveling Elias felt in his chest. Riley's integration into the house was a quiet miracle. The boy had claimed the breakfast nook for his sketchpad, filling pages with fantastical machines, flying bikes, submarine forts, that blended his uncle's tales with Elias's offhand mentions of Maine shipwrecks. School reports glowed with praise for his sudden bursts of participation, and Elias caught himself beaming at parent-teacher conferences, the sterile gym folding chairs a far cry from the isolation he'd nursed like a habit. But Declan was the accelerant, his visits syncing with the low points. A client deadline that bled into midnight emails, a voicemail from his sister back east fretting over their ailing dad, the kind of familial tether that yanked Elias back to unresolved grief. Declan would arrive unannounced, toolbox in tow or a thermos of clam chowder from Ivor's, his presence a balm that soothed without asking. "Rough day?" he'd say, reading Elias like an open forecast. and before long they'd be shoulder to shoulder at the workbench, sanding down a birdhouse Riley had designed, the rasp of sandpaper a metronome to their conversation. It started innocuous. Declan sharing snippets of his patchwork life, the divorce at 25 that left him gun-shy en routes, the string of gigs that kept him mobile but untethered. Freedom's a double-edged blade, man, he'd muse, hazel eyes distant as he planed a rough edge smooth. You run from the hurt, but you leave pieces behind. Elias nodded, offering fragments of his own, the corporate climb in Boston that soured into burnout, the move west as a reset that mostly reset his heart to factory despair. There was a symmetry to their scars, Elias realized, both men shaped by losses that taught them to build walls from driftwood and denial. One Saturday, with Riley at a classmate's birthday bash in Green Lake Park, his first sleepover invite, a milestone Elias marked with quiet pride, Declan showed up solo, a six-pack of Fremont Brewing in hand and a proposition. Storm's rolling in. Let's board up that loose window before it shatters. The work was quick, but the rain hit early, trapping them inside with the scent of wet earth seeping through the cracks. They migrated to the living room, fire crackling in the stone hearth. Elias had installed himself, casting shadows that danced across Declan's features like secrets begging to be told. Curled on the couch with knees drawn up, Elias nursed his beer, the alcohol loosening the knots in his tongue. You ever think about sticking around? He asked, the question slipping out bold and unfiltered. For Riley, kid lights up like the 4th when you're here. Declan's laugh was soft, tinged with something bittersweet as he stared into the flames. Every damn day. But I'm the fun uncle, not the steady one. My sister's boy, Riley's mom. She begged me to take him full-time after the accident, but I was fresh off a bad split, drowning in bar tabs and bad decisions. Told her I'd be there when it counted. He set his bottle down, the clink echoing. Turns out, when it counts is every day. But roots, they scare me, Elias. Like if I plant myself, the storm'll uproot everything again. The vulnerability hung between them, thick as the peat smoke, and Elias felt it mirror his own fears. The terror of investing in fragile things, only to watch them shatter. He shifted closer, drawn by the heat radiating from Declan's frame, the faint scent of pine soap and rain clinging to his skin. Maybe storms build character, Elias murmured, his voice barely above the fire's pop. Or maybe we just need someone to weather them with. Declan's gaze met his then, steady and searching, the air charging with an electric hush. For a heartbeat, Elias thought he saw it, the same flicker of want he'd buried deep, the pull toward connection that defied labels and logistics. Declan's hand lifted, hovering near Elias's knee, thumb brushing denim in a ghost of touch that sent sparks skittering up his spine. But then Riley's key scraped in the lock. Home early from the party, cheeks flushed with sugar and stories, and the moment fractured, Declan pulling back with a wry smile. Saved by the bell, huh? The interruption lingered like an unfinished sentence, coloring the days that followed. Declan dialed back the visits, citing a pipeline job in Yakima that demanded 2-week stints, but his texts pinged Elias's phone with increasing frequency. Photos of Riley's latest sketch forwarded from the boys' school email, or memes about Seattle's eternal gloom captioned, "Hang in there, Hawthorne. Sun's gotta break eventually." Elias replied in kind, the banter a lifeline he clutched too tightly, each exchange peeling back another layer until he knew the curve of Declan's smirk from memory alone. Thanksgiving loomed, a holiday Elias had long dodged with takeout and Netflix marathons, but Riley's wide-eyed plea, "Can Uncle Deck come? He makes the best stuffing," cracked his resolve. They hosted a small affair, just the 3 of them in the dining room strung with fairy lights salvaged from a Finney Ridge flea market, the table groaning under turkey brined in apple cider and pies from a Wallingford bakery. Declan arrived windswept from the drive, arms laden with cranberry relish and a vintage record player he'd scored in a Spokane estate sale, spinning Sinatra croons that clashed gloriously with the downpour outside. The meal unfolded in laughter-laced warmth, Riley dominating the conversation with elaborate plans for a treehouse, bigger than the Space Needle. Declan egging him on with exaggerated sketches on napkins. Elias watched from across the table, heart swelling at the tableau. The way Declan's foot nudged his under the cloth, accidental on purpose, or how his eyes softened when Riley dozed off mid-story, head pillowed on Elias's lap. As they cleared plates, Declan cornered him at the sink, suds bubbling around their wrists as he passed a dish. "This feels dangerous," Declan whispered, close enough that his breath ghosted Elias's ear. "You, me, this kid. It's like we're playing house without reading the rules." Elias turned, water dripping from his fingers, meeting Declan's gaze head-on. "Maybe the rules are overrated." The words were a dare, and for a suspended second, Declan's lips parted, the space between them humming with possibility. Then he leaned in, not for a kiss, but a forehead press, brotherly yet charged, murmuring, "Your trouble, Hawthorne, good trouble." That night, after tucking Riley in with promises of Black Friday arcade runs, Elias found Declan on the porch, staring at the rain-slicked cityscape. They stood side by side, shoulders brushing, the silence companionable until Declan broke it. "My ex, Javier, he was the settling type. Artist in Eugene, all dreams and deadlines. I bailed when it got real, convinced I'd drag him under. Biggest regret of my life." His voice cracked on the last word, raw and unguarded. Elias's throat tightened, empathy flooding him. Theo was the opposite. Chased the thrill, left me holding the pieces. Taught me love's just borrowed time. He hesitated, then added, "But this, with you here, feels like we could rewrite that." Declan's hand found his in the dark, fingers lacing tentative and true, the grip a vow unspoken. They stood like that until the cold drove them in, the touch lingering like an ember as Elias climbed the stairs alone, heart pounding with the thrill of what-ifs. Sleep evaded him, mind replaying the press of palm against palm, the way Declan's thumb had traced a slow circle on his knuckle, a Morse code for more. December dawned crisp, the holidays gilding Seattle in twinkling excess. Lights draping the market stalls, fairies festooned like ghosts on the sound. Elias dove into foster protocols with renewed vigor, court hearings in the downtown courthouse where Riley's caseworker droned about permanency plans, therapy sessions at a Fremont clinic where the boy unpacked his grief in crayon drawings of fractured families. Elias attended it all, advocate and anchor, but his thoughts strayed to Declan, whose texts had gone radio silent after Thanksgiving, a void that gnawed like hunger. When the knock came on the 12th, a tentative rap at midnight, snow flurrying rare and insistent, Elias's stomach flipped. Declan stood on the stoop, duffel at his feet, face gaunt under the porch light, eyes red-rimmed from more than wind. "Job fell through," he said flatly, voice stripped bare. "And I can't keep running, Elias. Not from this. Not from you." The confession hung, a precipice, and Elias stepped aside, pulling him into the warmth without a word. Riley stirred from his room, patting down in pajamas, and the three of them ended up in the kitchen, cocoa steaming as Declan spun a sanitized version of his unraveling. A bounce check, a bar fight that wasn't his fault. But later, with the boy Abed, Declan collapsed onto the couch, head in hands. "I'm a mess, man. $40 to my name and a head full of doubts. What if I'm just poison?" Elias knelt before him, hands framing Declan's knees, the denim ruff under his palms. "You're not. You're the guy who shows up, who builds forts and tells stories that make a kid believe in magic. Stay. Let me help you build something real." Declan's head lifted, tears tracking silent paths, and in that fractured moment, he surged forward, lips crashing against Elias's in a kiss born of desperation and dawn. It was salt and need, Declan's stubble scraping tender skin, hands fisting in Elias's shirt as if anchoring to shore. Elias melted into it, the world narrowing to the taste of him. Coffee and regret, years of restraint shattering in the press of bodies. They broke apart gasping, foreheads pressed, Declan's whisper ragged, "God, Elias, I've wanted this since the first damn knock." Laughter bubbled through the tears, shaky and shared, and they clung there, the house a cocoon against the storm. For the first time in forever, Elias felt anchored, not to rules or routines, but to the messy, beating heart of possibility. The kiss marked a turning point, subtle as the first crocus pushing through January frost, but seismic in the aftershocks that rippled through their days. Declan didn't leave that night. Instead, he crashed on the couch, duffel unzipped like a declaration, and by morning he'd bartered his handyman skills for a spare key. In case the sink backs up again, he joked, but his eyes held steadier promises. Elias watched him integrate, a force of nature folding into their rhythm. Mornings where Declan whipped up pancake towers doused in wild blackberry syrup from roadside stands. Afternoons tinkering in the garage with Riley on a go-kart frame salvaged from Craigslist. Evenings where the three sprawled on the living room rug, debating superhero origins over popcorn. Elias's world expanded in increments, the foster life no longer a solitary vigil but a shared vigil. Court dates became joint ventures, Declan in the gallery with a supportive nod that steadied Elias's testimony on Riley's progress. Bedtime routines established, nightmares down to once a week. The caseworker, a no-nonsense woman named Marta from the Denny Triangle office, raised an eyebrow at Declan's presence but noted the stability, her reports glowing with phrases like, emerging family unit. Elias felt the weight of it, the possibility of adoption whispers in the margins, but pushed it down. First, they had to navigate the now. Their stolen moments were the oxygen. A brush of fingers over dish duty, Declan's boot nudging Elias's under the breakfast table, while Riley chattered about snow forts. The first real date snuck up unannounced. A Thursday when a neighbor took Riley for an overnight at the zoo, leaving the house echoing. Declan suggested a walk along the locks at Ballard, where salmon leaped silver against the spillway, the air sharp with brine and possibility. They wandered hand in hand once the crowds thinned, Declan's thumb stroking Elias's knuckles in lazy arcs, conversation meandering from Riley's latest invention to deeper currents. "You ever come out here alone?" Declan asked, leaning on the railing, the water churning below like his thoughts. Elias shook his head, wind tugging at his scarf. "Nah, too many ghosts. Reminds me of home, the way the tides pull everything loose." He glanced sidelong, catching the play of light on Declan's profile, the way his ponytail had loosened, strands whipping free. "With you, though? Feels like choosing to stay." Declan turned, cupping Elias's face with gloved hands, pulling him into a kiss that tasted of salt spray and certainty. Slow, deliberate, it unfolded like a secret long guarded. Lips parting, breaths mingling, Declan's groaned low as Elias's fingers tangled in his hair. They broke only when a distant horn blared from a barge, laughing breathless against each other's necks. "You're undoing me, Hawthorne," Declan murmured, nuzzling his jaw. "In the best way." Back home, the night unfurled without urgency. A tangle of limbs and whispers in Elias's bed, the sheets cool against heated skin. Declan's body was a map of lived miles. Scars from a logging mishap in Montana, freckles dusting his shoulders like constellations. Elias traced them reverently, learning the hitch in Declan's breath when he nipped the hollow of his throat, the way his hips arched under patient hands. It was exploratory, tender, Declan murmuring praises in that gravel voice. "God, the way you look at me." As Elias mapped him with mouth and touch, drawing out gasps that echoed soft in the dark. Climax came in waves, shared and shattering, Declan spilling first with Elias's name on his lips, a litany that pulled Elias under moments later. They lay spent, sweat slick and sated, Declan's arm heavy across Elias's waist, heartbeat sinking in the quiet. "This is real, right?" Declan whispered into the curve of his shoulder, vulnerability threading the words. Elias turned, pressing a kiss to his temple. Real as the rain. Sleep claimed them entwined, the house sighing approval around their dreams. Winter deepened, holidays blurring into a montage of firsts. Decorating the tree with ornaments from Declan's travels. A driftwood star from Oregon dunes. A tin reindeer from a Texas flea market. Riley's eyes wide as he hung them high. Christmas morning brought chaos. Paper shreds and glee, Declan in an apron flipping lax while Elias brewed eggnog-spiked coffee. The boy unwrapped a leather-bound journal from Elias, pages for his sketches, and a model plane kit from Declan, promising build sessions. In the glow of tinsel, with Riley napping amid the wreckage, Declan drew Elias into the kitchen for a stolen kiss, tasting of cinnamon and home. "Merry Christmas, love," he breathed, the endearment slipping natural as breath. But beneath the idol, fissures formed. Declan's job hunt yielded sporadic gigs, drywall in Magnolia, fence mending in Queen but the inconsistency gnawed, manifesting in late-night silences where he'd stare at his phone, scrolling want ads with a jaw set tight. Elias caught him once, pre-dawn, nursing a beer on the back steps, the city a blanket of fog below. "Talk to me?" Elias urged, settling beside him, hand on his thigh. "It's stupid," Declan muttered, capping the bottle. "Feels like I'm leeching, crashing your life, eating your food, while you carry the load. What if I can't hack the steady?" Elias squeezed, firm. "You're not leeching. You're building with us. We all wobble. That's the deal." But the doubt seeded, sprouting tendrils in small ways. Declan's hesitance to unpack his duffel fully, the way he'd deflect adoption talks with Riley, steering to safer waters like trail maps for spring hikes. February brought the storm, literal and otherwise. A nor'wester battered the sound, winds howling like banshees, knocking power out for 2 days. They hunkered in the house, candles flickering, board games by flashlight. Riley crowing victory at Settlers of Cayton, oblivious to the undercurrent. That second night, as thunder rattled the panes, Declan pulled Elias into the attic guest space, a nest of blankets amid stored boxes. "Need you," he growled, hands urgent, stripping layers with rain-lashed fervor. Their lovemaking was fierce, bodies slick and desperate. Declan pinning Elias to the makeshift bed, thrusts deep and claiming, Elias's nails raking his back as pleasure coiled tight. "Mine," Declan panted against his neck, the word a brand, and Elias shattered with it, crying out into the gale. After, curled in the afterglow, Declan confessed fragments. A letter from an old flame, Javier, resurfacing with apologies and an offer to catch up in Portland. "It's nothing," Declan insisted, but the shadow lingered, jealousy a bitter twist in Elias's gut he swallowed down. Respite came in March, with crocuses nodding in the yard and Riley's spring concert at school. A off-key rendition of Somewhere Over the Rainbow that had tears pricking Elias's eyes. Declan was there, front row, whistling loud when Riley bowed, and afterward they celebrated at a Fremont pub, burgers and root beer floats under neon signs. The boy chattered about his solo, and in a lull, Declan leaned across the booth, kissing Elias quick and public. A peck that turned heads but felt like defiance. "Proud of our family," he said, voice warm, and Elias's heart swelled, the word "our" a cornerstone. Yet the cracks widened. Declan landed a steady contract, plumbing retrofit for a chain of coffee shops in Belltown, but the hours stretched long, leaving him drained, snapping once over a forgotten grocery run. "I'm trying, Elias." "Christ, why's it feel like quicksand?" The argument simmered, words like barbs. Elias accusing him of 1 foot out the door, Declan retorting with Elias's control freak tendencies, the foster system as a crutch. They made up in bed that night, apologies etched in skin, slow, reconciliatory touches that rebuilt bridges. But the bruise lingered, a reminder of fragility. April bloomed treacherous, dogwoods unfurling pink against gunmetal skies. Riley's therapy unearthed deeper wounds, a session where he lashed out, accusing Elias of stealing him from Uncle Deck, and Elias absorbed it, holding the boy through sobs, but the echo hit Declan hard. "He's right to wonder," Declan admitted over whiskey that evening, Riley asleep upstairs. "I'm the wild card. What if the court sees that?" Elias pulled him close, lips brushing his temple. "They see a man who shows up, every time." But doubt festered, And when Marta scheduled a home visit, tension coiled tight. The evaluation unfolded picture-perfect. Cookies baking, Riley demonstrating his go-kart, Declan charming with tales of family lore. Marta left nodding approval, but as her car pulled away, Declan's phone buzzed. A callback from a construction firm in Boise, 6 figures and stability. Just an interview, he said, but Elias saw the pull, the siren call of escape. That night, lovemaking turned urgent, a reclaiming, Elias straddling Declan, riding him slow and deep, eyes locked as release crashed mutual and raw. Stay? Elias gasped, collapsing atop him, and Declan's arms banded tight. I am. God, I am. But promises are paper in storms, and May whispered warnings in lilac-scented winds. Summer teased Seattle with rare sun-drenched days, the kind that coaxed picnics to Gas Works Park and ferry rides to Bainbridge for berry picking. Elias threw himself into the season's buoyancy, determined to shore up the foundations Declan and he had laid through winter's trials. Riley thrived under the light. Swim lessons at the Green Lake pool where he dog-paddled with glee, science camp at the Pacific Science Center unveiling his knack for circuits and gears. Elias volunteered as chaperone, pride swelling as the boy presented a solar-powered boat, Declan's whoop from the audience drawing smiles all around. Their triad felt solid, a unit forged in shared glances and inside jokes. Declan's habit of leaving coffee rings on Elias's desk blotter, the way Riley dubbed their trio the Wrecking Crew after a backyard demolition of an old shed. Dates woven seamlessly. A weekend camping at Dash Point, where Declan taught Riley to bait hooks for perch, and Elias stole kisses by the fire pit, the crackle masking their size. Nights alone were symphonies of rediscovery. Declan exploring Elias with a patience that bordered worship, fingers mapping collarbones and hips, mouth following to illicit shudders. Beautiful, he'd breathe, entering slow, their bodies sinking in a rhythm honed by months of trust, climaxes cresting like waves on the sound. Yet the Boise shadow loomed, Declan's interview postponed but not forgotten, a specter in quiet moments. He threw himself into work, the Belltown contract extending, but Elias caught the late-night scrolls on his laptop. Relocation packages, cost of living calculators. It's backup, Declan insisted over dinner one June evening, salmon grilling on the deck as Riley chased fireflies in the yard. In case this gig dries up. For us, for stability. Elias nodded, fork spearing asparagus, but the word us rang hollow against the undercurrent of me. Stability had become their mantra, whispered in bed after lovemaking, but Elias wondered if Declan heard the plea beneath. Stay because you want this, not because it's safe. The fracture cracked open mid-July, heat wave baking the city into torpor, AC units humming futile against the swelter. Declan returned from a site visit flushed and furious. A subcontractor skimmed materials, pinning blame on him, the foreman threatening right up. He slammed through the door, toolbox clattering, and Elias met him in the hall, hands raised. Hey, talk me through it. But Declan paced, words tumbling jagged. It's bullshit, Elias. I'm busting my ass to prove I'm not the flake everyone thinks, and it still circles back to unreliable Voss. Riley peeked from the stairs, eyes wide, and Elias shooed him to his room with promises of ice cream later. In the kitchen, tempers flared. You're projecting, Elias said, voice steady but edged. This isn't about the job. It's Boise calling, isn't it? The easy out. Declan's eyes flashed, hurt sharpening to anger. Easy? You think chasing 6 figures is easy when it means leaving. This? He gestured wildly, encompassing the house, them. I'm trying to build something, but you keep waiting for me to bolt. Like I'm Theo or Javier, or every ghost in your closet. The comparison stung, Elias recoiling as if slapped. And you're the one with one bag packed, December. Always the horizon over the hearth. What am I supposed to think when you won't even discuss adoption? When Marta's asking about permanency and you change the subject. Declan deflated, sinking onto a stool, head in hands. Because what if I fuck it up? Riley deserves better than a maybe dad who chases paychecks. His voice broke, raw. I love him, love you, but love's not enough if I'm broke and broken. Elias crossed to him, kneeling, hands on knees. It's enough if we face it together. But you have to choose us, not the what-ifs. They clung there, apologies murmured into hair, make up sex later in the dim bedroom. Urgent, forgiving, Declan taking Elias against the wall. Thrusts deep and declarative. Gasps mingling with I choose you like a chant. Release left them trembling, but the rift lingered, a hairline fracture under pressure. August brought the betrayal swift as a squall. Elias came home early from a client lunch in Pioneer Square, arms full of groceries for Declan's surprise barbecue. Steaks from the market, corn silk fresh. The house was quiet, Riley at camp, but Declan's truck idled in the drive. Upstairs, voices filtered, low, intimate. Elias froze on the landing, heart hammering, the bag slipping from numb fingers. Can't keep pretending, December. We had something real. Still do. Javier's timbre, smooth as aged bourbon, unmistakable from photos Declan had shared in vulnerable hours. Silence, then Declan's rumble. It was years ago, Javi. I'm with Elias now, building a life. A pause. Heavy. Is he? Or are you just playing house because the kid needs it? Come to Portland, my studio's got space, commissions rolling in. We could pick up where we left off, no strings, no foster drama. The words eviscerated, Elias's knees buckling against the wall. He waited, breath held, for Declan's rejection. Fierce, unwavering. Instead, God, I don't know. It's complicated. Elias is steady, but you get the wander in me. The kiss that followed was audible. A soft collision, moan muffled but unmistakable. Elias fled downstairs, groceries scattering like shrapnel, driving aimless through traffic-choked streets until he parked at Cary Park, overlooking the skyline that suddenly felt alien. Betrayal burned, hot and familiar. Theo's ghost resurrected in Declan's lips on another man. Hours later, he returned, house dark, Declan's note on the counter. Went for a drive. Love you. D. Riley sensed the shift at dinner, poking at pasta. Where's Uncle Dec? He promised Mores. Elias forced a smile, spinning a tale of overtime. But the boy wasn't fooled, retiring early with a hug that squeezed Elias's resolve thin. Declan slunk in at midnight, reeking of bar smoke and regret, collapsing beside Elias in bed. Javi showed up, ambushed me at the site. I told him to go, but the evasion in his eyes betrayed the half-truth, and Elias turned away, back a wall. Did you kiss him? The silence damned. It was a mistake, a goodbye. Declan's hand reached, pleading. Please, Elias. It meant nothing. Everything means something, Elias whispered, tears hot on the pillow. Get out. Dawn found Declan gone, duffel packed, a letter on the dresser. I'm sorry. Needed space to fix this. Back soon. Love. December. Riley woke to the void, questions tumbling, and Elias fielded them with lies that tasted like ash, shuttling the boy to school with promises of normalcy he no longer believed. Weeks blurred in survival mode. Elias buried in work, late nights at the office overlooking Elliott Bay, spreadsheets a numb refuge. Marta checked in, sensing the strain, but Elias downplayed, family adjustment. While inside, grief gnawed, a hollow where Declan's laugh had lived. Riley withdrew, sketches turning somber. Broken machines, lone figures on cliffs, and Elias's therapy referral for himself felt like defeat. Declan's texts trickled. In Yakima, laying pipe. Miss you both. Then photos, sunsets over wheat fields, a wildflower bouquet captioned, for the house. Elias read them in the dead of night, thumb hovering over reply, anger warring with ache. One evening, Riley unearthed the note, eyes filling. He left because of me, didn't he? Like mom and dad. Elias pulled him close, fierce. No, kid. Because grown-ups are idiots sometimes. But we're okay, you and me. Always. September's equinox brought the call. Declan, voice cracked over static. Interviews tomorrow. Boise. If I take it, it's for us. Stability. Elias's silence stretched, wound tight. And if I say no? Then I come home. Choose you. The plea hung, and Elias, heart fracturing anew, whispered, Don't choose the job. Choose us or don't come back. The line went dead, and Elias shattered, sobbing into the receiver as Riley watched from the hall, small hand slipping into his. The betrayal's sting sharpened, Javier's phantom kiss a poison, but beneath it, love's stubborn root clung, whispering of redemption or ruin. October winds howled portents, leaves skittering like warnings, as Elias braced for the verdict, Declan's return or the final unraveling of their fragile world. Autumn's palette bled across Seattle, ginkgo gold in golden gardens, pumpkins stacking at farm stands in West Seattle, as Elias navigated the wreckage with a resilience born of necessity. Workdays stretched into overtime marathons, client decks polished to distraction, but evenings were the battlefield. Riley's questions a minefield, his sketches now labyrinths of locked doors and escaping figures. Elias countered with structure, soccer leagues at Memorial Stadium, where the boys' tentative goals earned high fives from teammates. Baking nights yielding lopsided apple pies, the kitchen's flour-dusted chaos a balm against the quiet. Marta's visits intensified, her notepad filling with notes on emotional turbulence, hinting at stability reviews if the uncle dynamic destabilized further. Elias nodded through it, projecting calm, but alone in the shower, steam clouding the glass, he'd replay the hallway scene. Javier's voice, Declan's hesitation. A loop that clawed sleep from his nights. Therapy helped, marginally. Sessions in a queen and walk-up where Dr. Lena unpacked his patterns. The main-bred fear of abandonment woven into every bond. You're grieving a future, Elias, she said gently. Allow it space. Declan's absence carved deeper grooves. The empty toolbox hook in the garage, coffee mugs mismatched without his favorite chipped one. Texts evolved from apologetic to ardent. Dreamt of your hands last night. Hate this distance. Photos of Boise previews. Sleek apartments, mountain views that screamed reinvention. Elias replied sparingly, walls rebuilt high. Focus on the interview. Riley asks about you. But each ping stirred the embers. Love's traitor flame flickering against betrayal's gale. Mid-October, the storm broke. Literally. A bomb cyclone slamming the coast, power flickering as Elias and Riley huddled under blankets, flashlight tales of pirate adventures warding off the howl. In the lull, Riley confessed, voice small. I heard you fighting. Did Uncle Deck kiss someone else? Like in those movies where everything breaks. Elias's heart seized, hugging him tighter. Yeah, buddy. But breaking's part of mending sometimes. Doesn't make us less. The honesty lightened something, Riley nodding into his shoulder, and they fell asleep to the tempest's roar, a pact unspoken. The call came 2 days post-interview, Elias mid-run along the locks, earbuds pumping indie folk to drown the rain. Declan's voice cut through. Turned it down. Told them thanks, but I've got roots here worth more than a paycheck. Pause, breath ragged. I'm coming home, Elias. If you'll have me. Relief warred with wariness. Elias slowing to a walk, water sluicing down his jacket. And Javier? The goodbye? Gone. Blocked. Deleted, done. It was a weak moment. Chasing old ghosts because I was scared of how deep this runs. Declan's tone fractured. You, Riley, you're my horizon now. Let me prove it. Elias leaned on a bench, sound churning gray below. Prove it by showing up. No more maybes. The line held, charged, until Declan whispered, See you tonight. He arrived at dusk, truck rumbling up the drive, duffel slung but lighter, eyes shadowed with road wear. Riley tackled him at the door, forgiveness instant in a 10-year-old's heart, dragging him to the latest gadget. A wind turbine model whirring on the coffee table. Elias watched from the kitchen threshold, arms crossed, the sight stirring an ache sweet and sharp. Dinner was tentative. Spaghetti from a pot Elias stirred mechanically, conversation steered by Riley to safer shores. Halloween plans, a haunted hayride in Kent. Declan caught Elias's eye across the table, please silent in his gaze, and later, with the boy Abed in a sugar crash, they faced off in the living room, fire low. I messed up, Declan started, hands flexing. Javier was a regret I didn't bury deep enough, old habits when the pressure hit. But it wasn't about wanting him. It was fear, of failing you both, of not being enough. Elias sank onto the couch, exhaustion etching lines. It gutted me, December, like Theo all over again. Trust shredded, tears pricked, unbidden. I need to know this is it. No more running. Declan knelt, hands tentative on Elias's knees. It's it. Swear on everything. On Riley's sketches, your green eyes, the rain on this roof. He rose, pulling Elias up, into an embrace that trembled with intent. The kiss ignited slow, apologetic, lips soft, hands cradling skulls, a reaffirmation that deepened to hunger. Clothes shed in a trail to the bedroom, bodies familiar yet fervent. Declan laying Elias back, worship in every kiss trailed down chest and abdomen, mouth enveloping him hot and thorough until Elias arched, gasping release with Declan's name a prayer. In turn, Elias claimed, straddling and guiding Declan home, rocking deliberate, eyes locked as pleasure built. Declan's hands gripping hips, moans sinking until they crested together, sweat slick and spent. I love you, Declan breathed into the hollow of his throat, the words a seal. Elias echoed it, belief dawning fragile. Rebuilding commenced, deliberate as mortar setting. Declan quit the erratic contracts for a steady role at a Fremont co-op. Sustainable builds, union pay, commuting short, home by 6. He dove into Riley's world, coaching Pee-wee soccer, where his sideline cheers drown the refs. Joint therapy sessions unpacking his fun uncle guilt, emerging with tools for presence. Elias watched the shifts. Declan's duffel unpacked fully, drawers claimed. Date nights reclaimed. A moonlit picnic at Discovery Park where they slow danced to crickets, Declan's cheek on Elias's hair. November's chill brought Thanksgiving redux, expanded, Marta invited as neutral ground, plus a neighbor couple from the block watch. The table overflowed. Turkey carved by Declan, stories swapped over pie, and as Riley led a toast to second chances. Elias's hand found Declan's under the cloth, squeeze affirming. Later, washing up side by side, Declan bumped hips. We're doing this. Family. But shadows persisted. A letter arrived from Javier. Forwarded. Innocuous. Wishing you well. No hard feelings. Declan burned it in the fire pit without a word. But Elias glimpsed the tremor in his hands. The old wound's scar. Trust mended, but fragile, requiring daily tending. December sparkled with intent. Tree trimming a ritual, Riley directing ornaments like a conductor, Declan stringing lights with kisses stolen when the boy turned. Christmas Eve, snow dusting rare, they bundled for a midnight mass at St. Mark's. Elias agnostic but swayed by the candlelight glow, Riley's awe at the choir. Homeward, cocoa steaming, Declan pulled Elias aside in the hall. Adoption papers, filed them today. With you, if you'll have me as partner. Elias's breath caught, joy flooding. Yes, God, yes. The kiss sealed it, joyful and deep, carrying to the bedroom where celebration unfolded. Playful, passionate, Declan bending Elias over the dresser, mirror reflecting their union. Thrusts rhythmic, hands linked, climaxes crashing in tandem cries. New Year's dawned hopeful, resolutions whispered. More hikes, date jars for spontaneity. But January tested, a court hearing looming, Marta's final review, permanency decision. Prep sessions were tense, Declan pacing with hypotheticals. What if they probe my record, the nomad years? Elias steadied him, palms to chest. They see the man now, the one who chose us. The hearing unfolded in the courthouse's oak-paneled hush. Testimonies layered. Elias on routines. Riley's glowing report. Declan's earnest vow. The judge, silver-haired and stern, nodded through, recessing for deliberation. Waiting in the hall, Declan cracked jokes to ease Riley's fidget, but his free hand gripped Elias's, knuckles white. Verdict came swift. Custody granted. Path to adoption cleared. Elation erupted. Hugs fierce. Tears shared. Riley whooping as they spilled into the rain-washed street. February's Valentines bloomed romantic. Declan blindfolding Elias for a drive to Alki, unveiling a beachside cabin rental. Fire roaring, dinner candlelit, night lost in sheets. Slow explorations, Declan's tongue tracing runes on skin, Elias reciprocating with fingers curling deep, gasps harmonizing to ecstasy. Spring whispered renewal, but April unearthed the final conflict. Declan's co-op project hit snag. Budget overruns, blame circling. Stress mounted, old insecurities surfacing in barbs. Can't even keep a job straight, Elias snapped during a row over late bills. Declan fired back. Always the fixer. You not us. Words escalated, Riley overhearing, retreating to his room. Regret crashed immediate. They apologized in tandem, holding the boy between them. We're stronger cracked, Declan murmured, and Elias nodded, vowing therapy for the unit. May's warmth brought clarity. A weekend retreat to the Olympics, tent pitched by Quinault Lake, stars wheeling overhead. Around the campfire, Declan opened fully, childhood in a fractured Tacoma home, vowing never to repeat the instability. You make me want to stay, Elias, not out of fear, but fire. Elias shared his depths. Main losses, Theo's scar. And in the tense cocoon, they made love under canvas. Tender, eternal, bodies arching in moonlit union, release a sacrament. June crested with Riley's adoption hearing, a formality now, joy pure. Papers signed, family sealed. The boy beaming as they picnicked in Woodland Park, Rose's blooming witness. But July's heat brewed the climax. Javier resurfaced, uninvited, showing at the house during Declan's solo site run. Riley answering the door. Uncle Dec's friend. The man charmed, but Riley called Elias voice wary. Elias arrived to confrontation. Javier on the stoop, eyes pleading. Just talk, he's family. Elias's blood iced. You're not. Leave. Declan pulled up mid-argument, face ashen as Javier spilled. I came to apologize in person, but the proximity ignited. Old pull flaring, and Declan wavered, inviting him for closure coffee at a neutral diner. Elias seethed, waiting at home, betrayal's echo deafening. Declan returned contrite, Javier rebuffed, but the damage festered. Why entertain him? After everything. It was closure, Declan insisted, but Elias saw the fracture. Trust's thread snapping. Or temptation? The fight exploded. Accusations hurled. Hearts bared raw. I can't keep rebuilding you, Elias wept. Choose him, the road, or us. Declan broke, sobbing. Us, always. But Elias, gutted, demanded space. Prove it, alone. Declan left for a week. Solitary drive to the coast, soul-searching in tide pools. Elias tended Riley, therapy anchoring, but nights ached empty. Return came transformed. Declan, journal in hand, entries of fears faced, love affirmed. I chose therapy, roots myself, for you. They reconciled slow. Talks deep, touches tentative, rebuilding brick by brick. August sealed it. A vow renewal private. Beach at Golden Gardens. Waves lapping as they exchanged rings. Riley best man. Love-making that night was rebirth. Gentle, profound, Declan entering with whispers of forever. Climaxes merging souls. September's harvest moon watched them thrive. Family hikes, date nights, adoption finalized. October's colors framed peace. conflicts alchemized to strength. November whispered of winter's past, but now, with arms entwined, Elias knew. Love wasn't flawless, but fierce, enduring storms for sun. Winter's hush settled gentle now, Seattle's lights a constellation against encroaching dark, as the Hawthorne-Voss household, officially etched in county ledgers, embraced the cadence of permanence. Riley, 11 come spring, navigated middle school with a confidence that bloomed unchecked. Debate club arguments sharp as Declan's wit, robotics team tinkering echoing Elias's methodical calm. The boy called them Dad E and Dad Dec in casual slips, the titles landing like grace. No longer tentative but woven into daily fabric. Morning pancakes flipped with flair, bedtime stories tag-teamed with voices theatrical. Elias's consulting firm promoted him to lead, remote days affording porch swings with coffee, overlooking the canal's lazy flow. Declan thrived at the co-op, projects sustainable as their bond. Eco-homes in Ravenna, community gardens in the Central District, his hands calloused but content. Their intimacy evolved, seasoned mornings stolen in the shower, water cascading as Declan knelt, mouth devouring with lazy hunger, Elias's fingers and wet hair guiding to bliss. Evenings languid, Elias topping with reins loose, Declan's submission a gift, moans blending to crescendo. Yet echoes of strife lingered, teachers in growth. Quarterly family therapy in a sunlit Ballard office unpacked scars. Declan's nomad ghosts, Elias's abandonment thorns, Riley's early fractures. Sessions ended lighter, armed with tools. Date jars refilled, gratitude jars, where notes of your laugh or safe arms accumulated like treasures. Christmas swelled heartfelt, a Voss Hawthorne tradition forged, tree from a Fremont lot, ornaments added. Riley's clay handprint, a compass keychain for Declan, a locket with their photo for Elias. Gathering included kin, Elias's sister flying from Portland, Maine, her hugs thawing old distances. Declan's estranged brother from Spokane, tentative bridge over shared Alesh. Laughter rang, toasts to chosen families. And midnight, with Riley Abed, Declan drew Elias to the roof via ladder, blankets spread under stars rare clear. 1 year official, he murmured, ring glinting as he pulled Elias close. The kiss deepened, hands wandering under layers, release quiet and shared, fingers stroking to mutual spill, breaths fogging the chill. New Year's resolution. A road trip south, tracing Declan's old routes, Oregon coast clams, California redwoods, Riley shotgun with maps, family playlist crooning. Stops yielded stories. Declan's hitchhike scars revisited, not as shame but chapters. In Big Sur, cliffside camp, they made love in the truck bed under Milky Way blaze. Urgent, starlit, Elias riding Declan slow, constellations witness to gasps and grips, climax a meteor streak. Spring's thaw mirrored inner blooms. Riley's bar mitzvah, Elias's Jewish roots honored, Declan studying Torah snippets with earnest humor. Community affirming their mosaic. Summer adventures stacked. Kayaking the Sammamish River, Riley's splashes defiant. A Seattle pride float, rainbow flags waving, hands linked public and proud, love's banner against old shames. But life's undercurrents stirred. Elias's father passed in Maine, a quiet fade from cancer, pulling them east for burial. The funeral in Saltaire Rockland was raw. Cliffs Elias climbed as boy now backdrop to eulogies. Declan at his side, hands steady in the pew. Riley placed a stone on the grave, custom learned, and back west, grief transmuted. A memorial garden in their yard, perennials planted with tears turned soil-rich. Declan's milestone hit 40, celebrated low-key. Brewery crawl in Fremont, friends toasting his settled wild. Cake smashed with Riley's glee. Gift from Elias. A leather-bound atlas, blank pages for new maps. That night, intimacy peaked. Declan bound wrists playful to bedposts. Elias teasing with feather touches. Mouth and fingers orchestrating symphony to Declan's pleas. Release explosive. Aftercare cuddles deep. Autumn Wove Reflection. School open house showcasing Riley's essays on family redefined. Words piercing. Dad's taught me home's not place, but people choosing daily. Elias teared. Declan's arm around shoulders. Pride a tide. Winter circled back. December's solstice firelit. One evening, snow flurrying. Riley posed the question over cocoa. Will we always be like this? No more leaving. Declan met Elias's eyes. Vow silent. Kid, leaving's for folks scared of full hearts. We're all in, storms, sun, the works. Riley beamed, hugging fierce, and later, tucking him in, Elias lingered, heart full. Alone, Declan pulled Elias to the window, city twinkling. A year ago, I almost lost this us. His voice husky, hands framing face. Thank you for the second chance. For seeing the man under the mess. Elias kissed him soft, deepening to heat, bodies pressing glass cold, then tumbling to rug, clothes shed hasty. Declan entered reverent, thrusts measured, eyes locked. Love you, eternal. Pace built, Elias wrapping legs, urging deeper, climax crashing unified, waves of white-hot release binding souls. Spent, entwined, Elias whispered, we're the proof. Love wins. Not perfect, but persistent. Declan nodded, sleep claiming as rain tapped lullaby. Through trials, betrayals weathered, doubts dispatched, they emerged tapestry rich, human, flawed, luminous. In Seattle's embrace, gray skies yielding rainbows post-storm, they lived the truth. Family forged in choice, love's compass true north, trenchant, free, compassion's quiet fire.